right, for the essay test on Wednesday, make sure you're familiar with the key points that I go over. I have three essays here that could possibly be on the test Wednesday. So just kind of listen to what I'm going through, make sure you jot the information down, and make sure you're familiar with the information that I have listed. And remember, in an essay, you need to tell me about it, just don't list it. It's not a laundry list of ideas. You need to explain to me what these mean and how they pertain to the question. So the first one, analyze the extent to which the Spanish-American War was a turning point in American foreign policy. Well, remember, before the Spanish-American War, we were an isolationist country. We stayed out of everyone else's business. We were in the depths of Reconstruction. We were industrializing. We didn't have a lot of money. People still remembered how horrible the war was. So we didn't want to do anything to risk getting involved in another situation of conflict with another country. We also couldn't owe anyone else money. So we really wanted to stay out of that and just fix ourselves. Around the turn of the century, we do get involved in the Spanish-American War. Remember, this is the height of imperialism. All of the countries are going out to find other lands. We have a brand new navy. We have new markets that we want to find for the production of all of our factory surpluses and our farming surpluses. So we want to go out and we want to get on this imperialistic bandwagon as well. So we step away from the foreign policy of isolationism and we become imperialists. The Spanish-American War was the first military engagement outside of the United States since the Mexican-American War in 1846. Remember, that's before the Civil War. So this is a big step for us. We increased our naval budget. Our Navy is growing. Remember the Great White Fleet, the Roosevelt Corollary to the Monroe Doctrine. We add to that Monroe Doctrine in Latin America, especially after the Spanish-American War. After the Spanish-American War, don't forget, we have the Philippines, we have Puerto Rico, we have Guam, we have Cuba. What do we do with those areas and the ones that are territories, and especially with Cuba and the Platt Amendment? We also have dollar diplomacy that comes about with Taft and how we financially intervene with these countries. The next question is, what were the major issues of the 1896 election? Why did McKinley win, and what were long-term effects? Well, don't forget, the main issue of this election, gold and silver. The farmers wanted silver. It was going to cause inflation. Prices would go up. They needed the money. The wealthy, the gold bugs, they wanted it to be based off of gold. They had deflated prices, which was driving the farmers in debt, and less money in circulation. So it made the money that they did have much more valuable. McKinley was a Republican. Remember, he wanted the gold standard. William Jennings Bryan, he's represented the Democrats and the populists. He wanted the silver standard because of who he represented, those farmers. He also gave that cross of gold speech. McKinley, he was able to get those Eastern votes from the factory workers, even though the populists went out and they really tried to get those voters by saying they would go for the 8-hour workday. They stayed in the East. The wealthy were afraid of losing money if William Jennings Bryan won and going on the silver standard. Business owners made sure that they were getting the votes for McKinley. In the future, what does this lead to? Well, Republicans were in the White House now for 16 years. Candidates were focusing now on cities over farms in future campaigns because the cities, that's where the votes were. Those were the people who would go out and they would vote, and there were just more of them. They also got the Gold Standard Act of 1900 passed, and this said that gold would back the currency. So any hopes that the populists had of getting the silver standard passed went away in 1900 when McKinley was able to get this going. The last question, assess to what extent Unit 4 exemplifies its title, Forging an Industrial Society. Remember, this question is all-encompassing, the entire unit that we've studied so far since January. Don't forget to mention industrialization. That's huge. Factories, machines, they replace the workers. Remember, the workers are working in horrible conditions, child labor, long hours. The people are moving to the cities, and so the people are moving to cities, factories move to the cities. We have new industries, steel and oil, which leads to skyscrapers and electricity and bridges. We also have labor unions. Remember the labor unions, why were they formed? What did they want? Many of these people settling in the cities were immigrants, the old immigrants, the new immigrants, the discrimination that came about because of this. The railroad, don't forget about the railroad, it's huge. The new industries that came about, like cattle, because of the railroad. It brings the country together. We have a strong national market because we can transport coast to coast. People are able to move out west. And we also have imperialism, new markets based on increased farm and industrial production. So now that we're producing, we can find these new markets, especially after the Spanish-American War, when we have more lands. We have new resources on these new lands. So all of this coming together, we really push forward and we've industrialized and we're making a new market economy for our country.